What's up, everyone? Thanks for listening to the Student Built Startups podcast. But before we get started, I just want to give you a quick heads up. The audio quality of this episode may be a little bit lower than the previous ones that you've heard. I was testing out a new method of doing my interviews, and the audio quality turned out to be a little bit lower than using Skype. I'm doing my best to make this as consistent as possible between each episode. So going forward, I will continue using Skype. Hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Student Built Startups podcast, episode 13. I'm your host, Cameron Stone, entrepreneur and marketing analytics student at UMD. I interview student entrepreneurs to share their stories and business strategies. Today's guest will talk about the truth of starting a business by yourself. He has plenty of experience in this, from when he quit his six-figure job to start his own business. He'll be sharing his story and how his education has played a role in it. You can find out more about him at nikozopfi.com. I'm excited to introduce you to the owner of MasteredMedia, Nikko Zopfi. Hey, Nikko, thanks for being on the Student Built Startups podcast. I'm really glad to have you here. First thing I'll have you do is start off by saying hello to everyone listening and sharing one crazy but true fact about yourself.
Hey, Cameron. My name's Nikko. Thank you so much for the opportunity and, just the platform to introduce and to speak out of all these student stories and just making sure that a lot of the, the lower voices, the stuff that you don't hear every single day gets to, have its own single voice. So thank you so much for that opportunity there.
My pleasure to do that. Have you start off by sharing one crazy but true fact about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one crazy but true fact about just business in general is it's not a personality type, and nothing is. It doesn't. With other, there might be racism or segregation in other ways, but business is a neutral playing field. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your backing. You can come from anywhere. So I always like to start out with saying, I'm actually an introvert at heart. I was scared deathless to talk to people. I was absolutely scared to do anything business related. But I realized that it's more of a skill and not necessarily someone you have to be. So I always like to start telling people that it doesn't have to be, it may not be you, but for me, I always like to say the fact that I'm an introvert, and I like putting that in my business story just so other people feel comfortable. I'm not the big, 6'4", man coming at your door.
Yeah, I can resonate with that because I myself am an introvert at heart as well. Especially up until I got to college, I really just was like to be by myself and didn't have a huge knack for talking to people all the time. So, but that started to change. I'm starting to like talking to people, and doing this podcast has really helped me with that as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I'll have you start off with a little bit of your educational and entrepreneurial story.
Yeah. So back to what we were first talking about. I was actually going to school to become an endocrinologist. I was actually, deciding to go to the medical field for, endocrine disorder, whatever it is, doctor.
Yep.
I realized very quickly that, people can build interests in things very quickly. You can get the knowledge on things very, very quickly. But unless you have the passion and drive to really continue your interest, it really doesn't go anywhere and just becomes less of a, more of a non-money making hobby. It's nice to know, it's interesting to know, but is it something you see yourself pursuing? And in college, going into the medical field, after taking a few jobs and working with, some bigger companies, I was taking a lot of brand ambassador jobs, just making sure I was, being flexible with the college schedule. And I was thinking, oh yeah, if I work, maybe Saturday or Sunday and I make, 20 to 30 now, I'm doing good. All my friends are working Monday through Friday, and I'm here working 2 days. I must be doing something right. Eventually, transitioned out of college, decided, hey, let's go get our first corporate job. Had a home base at corporate Groupon. I'm sure you all, you've heard of them.
Oh yeah.
For about 3 years, the daily deal site, everyone knows about them. Made that the home base for about 3 years, and that was really the start of the corporate world. I always like to say, when I was saying I was coming from nothing, I went from literally not having $1 in my bank account, having, sleeping on the floor, into the 2-inch mattress pad that I have at my sales jobs, trying to figure it out after college. Some people are like that, and some people are just more, they have more resources available for them. But after getting the corporate job for 3 years, I won a contest somewhere with my mentor, Gallant Dill, and we hopped on a call one day, and he made me realize that I was under the assumption that having a 9-to-5 job was a secure and safe income. And it took me a little of a mindset shift to realize, while it is safe and secure, it's really not on the other side, because I think I mentioned this, there's only so much time that you can sell of yourself. There's only so much you can give of you, and there's only so much you can scale yourself as well. There's only so much hours, how much you can actually squeeze out of yourself. So I was really discouraged that every 3 months that my job pretty much reset itself. You hit your goal, next quarter comes, boom, the corporate guys chop off and say, hey, start your job all back over. Just want to give you a little bit of detail about that, at least the back part. Moving on to the actual business part. After having the call with him, I started getting dabbled into e-commerce, lead generation, online businesses, really the marketing world. And I was realizing that everything I was doing at Groupon, I could just scale to myself. Like, I had the skills and I had, the resources necessary. People think you need a lot more than you actually have. There's a lot that you can do either for free or with what you have, in terms of time efficiency. So moving into things such as like e-commerce or things such as like online business and marketing and lead generation, all the business have one common similarity, is that it's pretty much you focused at the center, and you can branch it out as much as you want.
Yeah, it is. That's a really good point that you make there. Thanks for sharing some of that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So what really inspired you to quit your full-time job and start that first business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went back home that day, and I really took a deep look at my finances, and really were, you have to take a good look at yourself one day, where you just have to swallow your pride, look yourself in the mirror, and just say, hey, like, it's clearly either it's not that it's not working, but you're clearly not where you want to be, and there's a reason for that. And then if there's a reason for that, what can you do to actually change it? So after I sat down and I said to myself, yeah, these businesses will pay a lot more for skills instead of, you pushing in and trying to make your commission. So my biggest inspiration was, I said, I can finally sell myself and teach myself rather than sell my time. It's not the 9-to-5. It's not, guaranteed. If I go in, I'm going to get that 20, 30, 40, 50 an hour. Like, it feels good. It feels good on the inside, right? To get that guaranteed paycheck. But what feels better is, I'm sure, when we hit that entrepreneur story, 3 to 6 months, years, however long it is down the path, we're getting that I call it the stability check. The one where it finally comes in and you realize my bills are paid for the month, or I don't have the income stress is neutral. You're buying the stress away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as soon as I started realizing, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can definitely, push the stress away. Said to myself, hey, let's quit this full-time job at around, I think it was Q3 to Q4, big time. But I said to myself, it's a good spending season according to, my experience. I pursued it. I just said, hey, we're going to double down, triple down, and we're just going to take this and try to run with it as best as we can.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I like your story of what inspired you to switch from full-time job to entrepreneur. And I think your reasons behind it were great. One thing I've been trying to do myself is switch from that kind of selling your time to kind of more of a building equity for the future and creating a platform for yourself where you can have stability, but not be stable by giving up your time. Because I think,
yeah, even at the end of the day, time you're giving away, but you can always retain, the knowledge. Even if you fail, you make mistakes, you get something out of it. Sometimes you just lose time. I mean, yeah, you get that paycheck, but sometimes you get it and you're like, man, was this really worth it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So how has your experience in the business world helped you start up your business?
This is interesting to me because coming from at least the Groupon world, this has helped me tremendously because I was in a position where I was promoted pretty much one of the quickest. I was in charge of franchises and national accounts. So I was speaking anywhere between, the individual massage therapist all the way up to the CMO of Chuck E. Cheese. Could have been anybody. So it's a variety of who you're talking to, but it gets you into that mindset of saying, hey, these are just normal people. They're just trying to get, things done a certain way. And maybe those top people are trying to get things done a certain way at a certain time. And you just got to follow the organization process.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the biggest experience lessons is figuring out how to organize yourself so that you can then organize yourself into other people's time. Because I feel like a lot of people will start scheduling things. They're like, oh, I need to get on, XYZ. I need to, book a meeting with who and who. But, internally they don't have their day-to-day checked out. Do they have that personal development? Do they have, their own time blocked out? Do they have, whatever it is their day-to-day is, rather than just say, hey, let's grind and pitch and do, the entrepreneurial quote unquote dream every single day, right?
Yeah, you make a really good point there. I think planning out your day, not just on like what you have to do, but on what you want to do, what you want to make sure that you do for yourself, for maybe your family, friends, relationships, that kind of stuff.
So I believe that's so underrated.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've gotten to the point where calendars, you have to start putting your own personal things in there because your business and work life, you just don't know what's overlapping anymore. And sometimes you actually do have to schedule that. You have to remind yourself, I do have that 6 p.m. dinner with my significant other because I had that meeting at 5:30, and sometimes you forget. You just get so caught up in things.
I think it's a very important thing to do. So move on to the next question here. How did you learn about what it takes to start a successful business? I know you learned a little bit from Groupon and from working in that environment, but was there anything else that really was in addition to that?
Absolutely. It was my my mentorship calls with Gallant. I think I mentioned him, Gallant and Dill.
Yeah.
He really he taught me step by step how basic and easy it is for you to develop yourself, not only online, but also to have sellable and scalable skills to make sure that your business idea just grows. And it was versatile for any type of industry, right? So he was telling me about lead generation and how pretty much it's, the XYZs of every business needs leads. And I basically said, you know what, maybe that's a good place to start. If I can, at least develop a foundation of just something, just anything, put anything together to start something. Because, as I'm sure, high school, college, the first draft of any essay is going to be terrible, right? So I said to myself, at that point, it's time to just stop thinking and it's time to stop talking. It's just time to start doing. Right?
Absolutely.
So as soon as I just started doing and just started putting stuff together, and sometimes that's the glue that just needs it to make it work, to just keep moving forward. You just got to keep pushing and just figure out how to make it work. Things just don't have to be perfect. And what I realized through him is it doesn't take much. It doesn't take very much resources. You can figure something out of yourself and you can scale it online. It really doesn't matter what you do, but if you take your business and your passion and you can market and advertise yourself, it doesn't matter what you can be doing, because through online, the world doesn't discriminate. If you advertise yourself, and if you speak loud enough, there's going to be some listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. The world is so big that almost no matter what your niche is, you're going to be able to find a significant amount of people that will have an interest in that, especially with nowadays, like all of our access to the internet and all the other platforms that we can get in contact with these people. So the opportunities are pretty much endless. So moving on, what is the most rewarding thing about owning your own business in your personal perspective?
In my personal perspective, I think it has everything to do with knowing that at some point your business is successful enough to give to others. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a physical sense too. It doesn't mean, you have to be donating canned food. but it's writing that first employee check, to whoever it is. It's writing that check to your bank account that says, hey, you can eat more than that salad for the last 2 weeks. It's the little things that help you grow. And I think it's the small stepping stones that get you to the grander goal is the most rewarding parts. When you can see someone that has been working under you, or you've been teaching them the skills, and you can see them grow and potentially outgrow you, and they're now helping you with whatever it is you're doing. I feel like that's the most rewarding part, is when you can build your inner circle of just like-minded individuals who have the same or similar skill set as you, maybe in different industries, but they have the work ethic, they're successful. At the same time, you can see you can see yourselves in your little group just grow together. And like I said, it's all about that giving part, saying, hey, I'm giving you the knowledge, I'm giving you, the funds or everything this. And then it's nice to see down the line, you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually getting something out of this. Something's coming back. You don't expect it right away. You don't see it coming. All of a sudden, one day you keep working. You're like, oh wait, I forgot. I'm supposed to be happy when I'm doing the business.
Yeah, that's a really good point you make there. I truly believe, that when you have a team or people that work under you, being able to just watch them grow and giving them a platform to help them succeed has got to be something just that's super fulfilling and makes you feel really good. So, what is your top priority when it comes to your business?
Results, 100%. Results. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
I think I think too many businesses, with my demeanor earlier, are they just talk the talk. Not a lot of people will walk and show the actual, the grit and grind behind it. I think in my starting years, especially my starting times, it was a little bit of arrogance, right? And it's something you develop, and something you have to be, where you go, yeah, I am XYZ. I can provide you this, therefore, you should act a certain way. And at that point, you realize, that really isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really care about what they do. You should really just care if you're providing a good service, right? Because at the end of the day, if the client isn't happy, well, you're not happy. So you might as well try to, make their experience the best you can possibly be. So in terms of top priority, I always say it's results 100%. If everything else, I feel you can work around it. But if you don't have a product or a process that can deliver something, tangible results to any type of business owner, I feel like you just don't have a business. If you aren't growing them in any way, shape, or form, you need to just reevaluate and say, hey, how do we make this a win-win situation rather than, a win-lose or a lose-lose, try to get something good out of everything.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you think about it through a client perspective, in the end, what they want most, their top priority is probably results for them in the end to get from you. So providing them results as your top priority is probably a pretty good place to start. Just makes sense logically, and keeping everybody happy, providing a win-win situation.
I feel like it's just a good starting point and talking point to start, developing a relationship with the business owner, is if you're just straight to the point and saying straight, hey, let's focus on the business. Let's make sure that this area is good, because you're inviting me as a stranger. I want to leave as a friend, and I don't want to take food from the table. I don't want to do anything that hurts you. So let's figure out what we can do here. I'm going to say I'm a very negotiable person. At the same time, you have to be reasonable, and you have to work with these, with pretty much everyone, saying, hey, let's see what we can do. Let's focus on that. Everything else is negligible. All this, the drama, all of this, the client, all this back end stuff. But let's just forget about that. Once you get a mindset shift of you not focusing on the little things and just the grander picture, you start getting into a task, kind of like a task completion mindset. You know what I mean? Where things just get done left and right because you're just in the zone. And sometimes you just need a little push to get out of that rut.
Yeah, that's a good point there. So, what was your biggest fear when you first started your business, and how did you overcome that?
Biggest fear when I started my business was losing my income and pretty much losing my livelihood that I built. You know what I mean? As you mentioned earlier, I was a six-figure earner at 22, 23. I had a great lifestyle.
Yeah.
You talking about it? Had the cars. I was, I could go out every weekend, eat what I wanted. You go to restaurants, you didn't have to look. Amazon shopping I don't have to go on. Everyone knows it. Losing that livelihood, honestly, it's scary going from having a lot to really having not a lot at all. It takes a lot of humility and humility, just making sure that you're level headed to where you're okay emotionally, right? Logically, we can always go, yeah, the income's there and everything's there, and I'll be okay. I have the house, I'm eating XYZ. But the biggest fears are all mental. It's coming in saying, hey, is the electricity gonna be turned out next month? How do I pay for the internet? A lot of these things that when you're first starting, you really don't think about. But when the bills start piling up, the stress gets piling up, you start thinking about it more and more, and then the dates keep creeping closer. I'm sure we all know it. You have the talk we don't want to have, or we're late on any type of bill. It sucks to go into that portal and to hit that submit button, right? Yeah. So the biggest thing to overcome it is just like we were talking about is just get that first draft out and just start making revisions and edits as quickly as you can. And it's not necessarily saying you have to be solving each one of those, but it's recognizing that there are issues and then you can work through them rather than dwelling on saying, hey, there are issues. If that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
No one cares about the issues. Everyone wants to know, all right, let's take this step by step. Let's what is it? Compartmentalize and categorize everything to make sure everything is, organized. You can tackle things one at a time. As long as you look at your fears one by one and then just tackling them one at a time, you will eventually get to a point where you're saying, there was nothing really to be afraid of rather than me. It was all the mindset stuff. And once you just again get that pen to the paper and get that draft ready, you start to realize, I had a lot more ideas than I thought.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to kind of get through those fears when they all are kind of combined together. Just look at them one by one. I haven't really thought of things that way. That's a great way to probably tackle each fear and figure out a plan of attack for each one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's scary when you think about all of it at once,
Yeah.
It's, if you're scared of heights, you don't start at thinking of jumping Mount Everest. You might want to start with, maybe, a small ledge, getting over, start working it.
Yeah. And something that just, I'm kind of curious about, when you left your job, did you kind of have like any planned out, or did you kind of just do it and just kind of figure it out as you went?
I actually had to leave. They made my work situation, I want to say very, very easy for me to leave. It was not, it was not a very, hard decision to leave.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Things happened around the company. There was a merger at some point. My manager got fired. My direct manager got fired. A bunch of management changes. They cut commission. Bunch of, just a lot of, they basically came in and corporatized the office, which, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's fine. But at the same point, I basically went up to their management and I said, this new commission plan literally affects nobody but the top performers. And I said, everyone here is making about the same amount of money except, the top, I think it was like top 5%, whoever was, really crushing goals. And it was at that moment where I realized, there's a reason why they changed this commission plan, because they changed it from a scaling plan, meaning that the higher you hit your goal, the more you got paid out, to a flat bonus payout, meaning that if you hit certain goals, you got a certain lump sum. Okay. So what their mindset was, they just wanted people in the seats to just be churning along every 3 months to collect their, their lump sum bonus. They didn't want these people, blasting these goals to 200, 300, 400% to goals anymore. They wanted the consistency. And, I respect that. I want to say I outgrew the position, and best of luck to them. I see some great changes with the people that are still there now. with what's going on. But yeah, at the time there was just too much going on, and I didn't have a job lined up. It was getting to the point where it was really frustrating coming to work, even if you were making a lot of money. And I think that was the turning point where I said, yeah, it's very, very well paying, but it's hard to get up in the morning to come to work.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because like people that are really driven and really have just a go get it attitude, if they're really driven by the harder I work, the more I'm going to make, that kind of mentality. And if that's taken away, that's not a very easy thing to deal with.
Yeah, it was tough to deal with. It really was. It was, I think if you're at like 200%, for example, you got paid 20% on your entire book. It wasn't, the part that got you the 20%, your entire book was, you earned more just because, your goals were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
After they took that away, it was kind of, a law of diminishing returns. Yeah. I mean, the money's coming in, but I'm not getting any bonuses anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what's incentivizing you to keep going? And I feel like that's true in the entrepreneurial world is, you always got to redefine and look to your next goals,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So what is your experience with building a business from nothing? Like what kind of like did you do to start it? Because basically, I mean, you don't have a platform, you don't have all this stuff, but yet you did it. So
I'm going to lay the foundation here. I did not have a website. I did not have any online experiences. I didn't even know what Facebook ads were. I've heard about them, as I'm sure many business owners have. I sold them. I talked about them at Groupon, I said, hey, we might give you Facebook ads. And that was kind of it. But really looking at the start is you don't need to have anything. You can go on to free services like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and me and you can write you a business plan that'll have whatever amount you want by the end of the month. We can come up with these proposals. We can come up with, all these things in writing. It's really until you start doing it, you start to get the checks and balances together of saying there's not a lot. At the same time, there's so much to do, meaning that the first time you start doing things, it feels overwhelming. You're getting your email set up, your business email set up. You're getting your website. You're getting, your I call it a brain dump. You're on a page for 2 hours, brain dumping all your ideas, saying, hey, this is my personal mission statement. This is why I believe I should be in business, and this is why I'm doing with what I'm doing today. Here's my product, and I think Marcus Lemonis talks about this the best. People product process, right? Mm-hmm. People's you. Product you have to come up with, and we can give you product. We can find an online business for you. That's easy. But it's the process saying, hey, get XYZ together. Take your email and making sure those things are looking good, right? And then you take the next step and you realize you either spent way too much money on stuff you didn't need, or you spent way too much time on stuff that time didn't need to be spent on. I'm sure we've all done it, right?
Oh yeah.
We spent 4 hours on that email on that business owner that never got back to us. We've spent, hours on a visual, presentation or proposal for clients for meetings that they don't show up for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you figure out that try to get more efficiency in yourself. So in terms of building it from nothing, I come from no website, no email, no business idea, nothing. And within a week, I had, ads going for my, for the business saying, hey, I can pretty much do this for you. And, at that point, it's more of just saying, okay, this is a starting point of personal development, and any type of client that goes with you now moving forward is going to get the best of you as of right now, plus your learning development as you move forward. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that's super underrated. Besides the results is the actual growing path of how you can, work with yourself and these people.
I know that the process of starting the business is probably the hardest part, because coming up with like finding a customer or a product is not too difficult, but the process of actually putting in the work is a very tasking job. But that's also the part that helps you grow the most as a person and as a business owner, and you learn the most from it. So it also has its own value within itself.
has its ups and downs, just everything. I just believe this business has way more ups than downs.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're about halfway through the episode now, so we're going to take a moment for a brief advertisement. Hey there. You're listening to the Student Built Startups podcast, so I'm assuming that you like listening to things that provide great value. Well, I'm going to fill you in on a little secret that I've heard of recently on how you can get some more free audio content that'll bring great value. Audible.com is a huge library of awesome audiobooks. And the best part is that your first month is free and you get to keep the first book that you order 100% free. You don't want to miss out on this opportunity. You can get your free 1-month trial and free book at audibletrack.com/sbspod. That is audibletrack.com/sbspod. The link is in the show notes. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about starting up a business by yourself. So why is starting a business such a great thing to do, especially in today's world?
I think this is, the online world is underrated. And I think, redefining terms here, why is starting a business a great idea?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even define these things as businesses anymore, even though technically they are. I call them passion projects. I call them that, people are, you can literally there's people who are influencers in anything nowadays, right? You look on Instagram, people are influencers for Yu-Gi-Oh cards and, kids' toy games, women's clothing, you name it, right? You name a passion, you have a business. That's basically the online world.
Yeah, nowadays. It is. Yeah. This podcast, when I started it, I founded it like it was a business because, the opportunities are there and I'm passionate about entrepreneurship and talking to people about it. So.
Yeah, right. So it's like you think it's a great idea, and then you start putting into it. You're like, man, I don't even care this was an idea. I'm just enjoying it at this point, right? You forget that it's a business and you forget it's an idea. You just forget it's something you love doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of starting a business, I feel like most people have already started their business. They just don't know it's a business yet, or they don't have that business mindset, which, that's fine. It's not like, they teach you these things in school. I just feel like in terms of today, you should be, whatever your passion or your commitments are, if you post that and that's something, you hold dear to yourself, it's a good idea and it's a business. We can work with that.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking about like people not knowing that they have a business, if you're in high school or middle school or whatever, and you're just walking your neighbor's dog down the street on the weekends or whatever, when they're out of town, you may not think of that as a business, but if you go do that for your other neighbors, soon enough, you'll have 5-6 people that you're doing it for. And you can turn that into a small business that you can do while you're in school.
Yeah, and I feel like those older values are lost. And I'm not saying the values are, but it's the concepts.
Yeah.
Back. Yeah, I know I'm 25. I can't say back then, but there was a time where you're right. People had their own day jobs when they're 13, 16. How many lawns can I mow? How many dogs can I walk? How many neighbors can I meet? Right.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's, how many likes can I get? How many views can I get? How many followers can I get? Right? I feel like it's all the same stuff in a different circle. Right?
It is. And just building the mindset around it in the right way is probably the key to actually growing and doing it successfully.
It's just recognizing that no matter what you have something. And if you really want to push forward with it, me or you can. It just depends if you want to look at inside yourself and say, hey, this is something I want to do.
Yep. So what are some things that people don't expect to go through when they're first starting their business?
This is my favorite. Everything. You don't expect anything. Everything is a new adventure, and everything feels like it's a battle, right? And you don't lose a single battle, right? You attack at every front and you don't lose a battle, but somehow you're losing the war, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's really what happens when you're first starting. You really don't know what's going on. You're trying to tackle on 1, 2, 5, 8 different things, and it's not, you're not spreading yourself thin. You just don't know what to focus on.
Yeah.
Don't know what to focus on. You don't know where to go. You don't know, what's the next step to do. And this was one of my issues, was coming from, again, that corporate world. Was it was easier for someone to tell me, look, just do this. You're getting paid 30, 40, 50 an hour, just do that, and have someone, handhold and tell you what to do. At this point, you just said, well, we just got to do something because it's not working. We just got to do anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I feel the biggest things are time commitments. I feel people grossly underestimate the time commitment of starting your own business. Like when we first started, all those mistakes, spending too much time, spending too much money on stuff. These are things that people go through naturally. And I feel like, that's just something you have to go through, right?
Definitely.
But in terms of everything else, it's just, you're actually working more hours than you are, than working a 9 to 5. You could be working, let's say 6 to midnight, really 6 hours. And you don't feel like it's a lot. But after a couple days, you start feeling it's a little draining, and then you start to realize, hey, I'm working from, I'm working 6 hours, right? And then in the morning, I'm working 2 to 3 hours. And when I'm on the road, I'm answering emails. And when I'm, doing whatever, I'm answering a phone call. And it's, the business doesn't exactly turn into your life, but you realize very quickly how to organize your life around the business. And I feel like that's just something you don't expect to go through, is just the organization of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Like, just, I feel like you almost need to set boundaries on yourself, and like when you allow yourself to do business and when you allow yourself to not do business. Cause like you get an email on your phone at dinner time with your family or whatever. And you're like, do I answer my emails during dinner, or is that a no-go? You just got to kind of set those boundaries for yourself. And
it's hard too, because I know some of your listeners will say, absolutely, that's appropriate, right? That's a business, that could be a business deal. And then some of your others say, no, that's a dinner with, so no. So it's you have your polarizing ideas, and you have your values that, can split very quickly. And again, with a business, it's just how you take it and how you want to operate yourself.
Yep, absolutely. You just got to think of the long term of where you want to be later on down the road and what you want your life to look like, and model what you're doing now based on that. So, all right. Next question here. Why is it so important to have a growth mindset?
I don't think it's important. I think it's needed. I think it's necessary.
Okay.
I think it's needed. Without the growth mindset, I feel like the first fundamental thing is growing out of your basic mindset into an open mindset, meaning that you have, like, it's not necessarily you have to be completely open about it, but you have to be willing to accept other ideas. At least, you can't have walls or boundaries eliminating other viewpoints or other, ideas or anything like that. As much as you hate them, as much as you like them, it doesn't matter what it is. It's good to just keep your eyes and ears open, right? And then eventually you start seeing yourself like, wait, now I can start connecting the dots of, different opportunities or different people and different networking events. Because without getting through that first initial hump of saying, oh, I'm in my own bubble, again, 9 to 5 job, I don't really talk to anyone else, I really don't do, X, Y, Z. As soon as you open your mind up, just to receive other people's ideas, and you don't need to be giving at that point. It's just to accept that there are other ideas out there, and how you can, what that means, and really just what that means to you, how you can take that yourself. But without the growth, I feel you also wouldn't have I call it scalability, meaning that at some point, if you put something in, you expect something, in return. At some point you expect to have bigger returns, because you're either more skilled or, whatever it is, you expect bigger returns at some point. Without you getting to the point of saying, this is possible, nothing is impossible, I can do this, I'm spending, too much time on this where I can reorganize myself. and just saying, getting into that task finder mentality of just the completion of, again, organize your day, checklisting it out, just saying, hey, if no matter what happens, if I can get XYZ today done, it'll be a successful day, even though you don't have your business income in order.
Yep.
And for example, one of the things that helped me was I scheduled every single day time for reading and time for eating, because I would have to remind myself I have to eat to survive. And I said to myself, I hate reading. I think I've read less books than I have fingers. It's to the point where, you have to get some reading in, you get some research done, just personal development. It doesn't even have to be growth. It just has to be about you. I think once you figure out what is important to you and yourself, you can figure out what your career and life paths are. And if a business is good for you, do you want to be sitting around doing X, Y, Z? That's completely fine. And do you want to do anything else? That's completely fine too. But until you're open, until, growing your ideas is just a no-go. There's nothing you can do if you're just stuck in that bubble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing that you said that I really liked was listening to others and just observing everything around you and accepting others' kind of ideas, and being willing to listen is a really undervalued skill nowadays. It's such an important thing to do because you're able to see things differently. If you can listen to other people, you can see things through different lenses and kind of understand maybe why people do this, why people do that, and use that to your benefit later on.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big quote guy, so that definitely hits me home there too.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. So, how can a first-time business owner bypass some of those common mistakes that are normally made when starting a business?
Yeah, the many things is either get a guide or get a mentor. Find someone to teach you and to walk you through the beginning steps, right? And it could seem tedious, and it could seem, common knowledge. And I always say common knowledge isn't always common practice, right? We may know about it, but at the same time, we may not really do anything about it, right? So I feel like getting not necessarily your hand held, but someone to at least outline something that may or may not happen for you. Because one of the things is, if you're not expecting something, I feel like it hits harder than if you're saying, that if they're saying, hey, this might happen, and it comes, you're like, okay, we were expecting this. We already have a plan in place for this. We can grow. We can work with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as we were mentioned earlier, if you're too stuck spending too much time on things that are unnecessary, you're spending money on automation tools or, Facebook guides and ads, and you're spending money on different platforms when you really don't know what you're doing. You're on Pinterest and Reddit now, and you haven't even mastered Facebook yet. You need someone to say, all right, let's tone it down. Let's figure out your skills. Let's figure out your passions, your projects. Let's figure out what we can do to outline yourself and at least come up with a foundation of those first growing steps. Because at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. In terms, especially in this business when there's so many unknowns, you can do whatever you want. And sometimes getting someone who's been in that to not only give you old concepts and tools, but new concepts and tools as well. Just saying, hey, this has worked in the past to get started. And then at the same time, after they get that foundation, here's the update now. Here's what you can do to really push this to the next level. And I feel that that's grossly underestimated, because it's not about, the common mistakes. It's really, how do we get you accelerated to the point where you want to be as quickly as you want to be?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a firm believer that mentors and people there to help guide you in the right direction is just such a valuable resource, because like you said, they're able to let you know like what's coming next. It's almost like you're able to have a little bit of a foresight into maybe what's to come
Yeah, a
and how you can.
little cheat sheet. That's what's
Yeah,
coming, right?
it
You're like,
is.
oh man, like, okay, that wasn't so bad.
It is, yeah. It's a lot easier to handle things when you're bracing for it and you're
Yeah.
ready.
Then when you're
Uh,
free falling down a mountain, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. That's never a good situation. So, what is your favorite type of business model?
My favorite business model would have to be the one I got started on would be the lead generation
Okay.
model, is because it is too right. If it's not necessarily leads, it's just marketing and advertising in
Hmm.
general. If you can find business for other, if you can find business for other people's business, that's a business in itself. That's
Oh, yeah,
connecting the dots somewhere. That's a bloodline of someone's business.
it is.
And as soon as you can find yourself and push in that, what else is there to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, like you were saying earlier, there's like the passion projects that are kind of businesses. Maybe they're kind of a business and people recognize that, but they're not too familiar in like how to generate leads or how to get clients
Hmm.
or advertising, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
lead
exactly.
generation is how they get their clients.
It's all about selling your skills over
Yeah.
time at that point, right?
Hmm.
It's making sure that, as we can say, like as we were mentioning, result driven. Making sure that let's say your leads of just finding anyone of just any particular product. Because if you find something cool, like you were talking about, and you're like, wait, I absolutely love this. I would love to talk and share about my experience or my whatever and my growth in the industry. No, why not do it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, speaking of lead generation, like, I mean, clients, business owners, they're willing to pay for that because if you can help them make money, they're going to be willing they're happy to pay you to make more money.
I know, right? I feel like that's just such a rewarding feeling too,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
like it's that win-win saying,
Oh yeah.
it's getting those Facebook messages back at 10 to midnight saying, hey Nikko, just letting you know, closed on XYZ yesterday. Can't wait to see the next results.
Yep.
That's the things that push you forward, that makes it your favorite.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, what is one other tip that you have about getting started in entrepreneurship and business?
All right. So the other tip I have about getting started would be undervaluing automation. I feel that the more you can get off of your plate, the more you can put on your plate, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
So if you can spend less time, drafting, proposal emails, and you can automate that process, you can
Yep.
start focusing your time on other areas. And it doesn't have to be business related. It doesn't have to be, I save time on email. I now have time for calls. It could be I save time on email. Now it's a quality of life adjustment for yourself,
Oh yeah.
saying, oh, now it's my reading time, or now it's my eating time, or now it's, whatever it is that I can do.
Yeah.
Um, the more you can automate yourself and really just duplicate yourself within your process is really key to taking yourself out of the grind mentality
Yeah.
to more of the skill mentality.
For sure. And I mean, kind of just an easy mindset to help yourself get into like thinking of automation and that kind of stuff is putting a value on your time. It's like, let's say you can value your time at $70 an hour and you're sitting there responding to 25 emails.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much are you willing to pay to automate those emails? Probably if it's less than $75 for an hour. I mean,
yeah, I
probably
mean,
be worth
you start calculating the time. You're like,
Yeah.
look, if one deal takes me an hour and I can automate, my whole email processes, I can just start closing way more.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
start focusing on, you start focusing on things that you feel that truly matter to you.
Yep.
At the beginning, you write down all your goals, you brain dump everything. And then eventually the top 3 or 5 start to stick out of what's really most important to
Mhm.
you.
Yep. One quote that I've heard, I can't put a name on who it was. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but somebody said that 80% of value that you get from your business is generated from 20% of the things that you do. So
Mhm.
that's just one little thing that I thought is relevant to this. So
I love that so much because it just shows the fact that it's not necessarily, what you're doing or how you're doing it. It's basically just saying it doesn't matter what it is, but you can build something out of it.
yeah, for sure. So we're going to switch over to the Fast 5 section. We're going to go through these pretty quick. So what is the most valuable class, course, or learning experience that you've had?
Ooh, Frank Kern. Frank Kern's
Kern.
beginning courses.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. What is one book that you would recommend?
Ooh, Dale Carnegie,
Dale Carnegie.
The one everyone should read. How to win friends and influence people.
All right.
It's a broken record.
Yeah. Influence is a very valuable skill to have. What is one business tool that you would recommend?
Alarm clock, is that a business tool?
If you want to, that works. Yeah. Alarm clock.
I think it's alarm clock. I'll explain that in a little bit.
All right. Yeah. How do you schedule your time and plan ahead?
By planning the night before.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. How do you get focused and stay productive?
This is funny. Has nothing to do with business, but diet.
Okay. All right. Do you want to expand upon that just a little bit?
Absolutely. There's a true statement with the look good, feel good. The look good, feel good. If you're wearing the fancy stuff, you're probably gonna feel a lot better about yourself.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things about me staying focused though was when I changed up what I was eating just so I can get more energy throughout the day. And it was to a point where I said, okay, we have to stop Uber eating, fast food for every single meal because I'm sitting around and I forget to eat. We have to start meal planning, some things.
Yep.
And when I started doing I started planning the night before and I started planning some meals, I realized not only was I getting better sleep, but I was more energized through the day because I wasn't eating, terrible food all the time.
Yeah.
I started getting, better energy and it's just, once you start living a healthier lifestyle, things just start to fall. I think there's a quote. It was like saying there's a couple things you need a hobby that that pays the bills. You need a hobby that you enjoy, and it was like you need a hobby that keeps you fit. So it's true. It's just so true that eating right and the diet just helps you sleep right and stay more energetic. It's just so underrated that most people don't even talk about it.
It does. It really does. That's one thing that I'm really founded on. Like, I think that having a strong diet and some exercise as much as you can fit in is it really will make you feel better and make you have more energy and that kind of stuff. I've been doing personal training for like the last 8 months at the gym up here in Duluth. And some of my clients, like, you can see a difference in a few months, like through them changing their diets and their exercise habits and kind of their energy levels.
You can see it on their face, that like, moment of when your clients come in, when the face turns from dread to like, oh, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, I'm getting something done. Like, hey, it feels good. It's that, the first 2 weeks of the gym, you've never done it before. It's gonna be terrible. And then you get past that and you go, wait a minute, this isn't too bad.
Yeah.
It's same thing with the entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, it is. It's very similar. So that concludes our Fast Five section. We are about to wrap up. You gave some great information about the startup process and what it takes and some great tips. But before we wrap up, I'll ask you to provide one main takeaway you'd like the audience to remember.
All right. So my main takeaway will be to not give up on whatever it is you're currently doing. That, no matter how grim it seems, no matter how, deep it may seem, I've been there. I completely understand. I was the one where the internet was going to get shut off. The electricity was going to get shut off. I had the eviction notice, in my hand, and I was staring at it. I took a picture of it and I said, do I really want this to be my life and livelihood? Right. And no matter how dark or deep it seems, that there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel if you just keep pushing forward. And if you really believe in yourself and you're really passionate about what you're doing, it may seem bad, but there's that rewarding tipping point in which that at some point, like I said, that stability check. I feel like that's one of the huge milestones, is getting something that says, hey, like, I'm rewarded for my efforts somehow. And that's a feel good first moment.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great takeaway. Thanks for that. And before we wrap up, also, I know you mentioned something about an alarm clock. So if you wanna talk about that, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things that I failed to do was with the business tools, because I see you had on here like Instagram, Excel, like Hootsuite, like a bunch of like automation tools. I think my biggest thing was just you mentioned it earlier, was just setting those boundaries, saying that, hey, at this time it's a hard stop, or at this time it's a hard stop, or we need to be doing something else. We can't spend too much time on any one activity. Meaning, if we're getting to a good part at, if you're reading something, okay, finish up your section maybe, but you got to move on to something else.
Yeah.
You can't be. I think the biggest things is, you got to get away from the complainer mentality to the actual doer mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point there.
And so that alarm clock just sets those boundaries of just saying, like, all right, time to start, time to go.
Yeah. It makes more sense now. That's good. So where can we find more about you and your business?
You can find me more on Facebook, Nikko Zopfi. I'm sure you can find all the details below. But I am going to be running our next student strategy sessions here soon. I'll have the applications, below, and I'll share that with you, Cameron.
All right.
As soon as with every business, as we're talking about, we want to make sure we're working with the right people, and we want to make sure we're working with the right businesses. As we're talking about, we want to make sure that, if you're passionate about it, we can take it and grow and scale with you. Yeah, just my main point of contact is Facebook right now.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. Really glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cameron. Again, appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and, all the hundreds of thousands of listeners that are going to be listening to this. And
oh yeah,
I'm so glad that there's, again, just a platform for people to share not only their stories, but just to collaborate and bounce some ideas off of, and talk about the under talked about of what's truly in the industry.
I'm really glad that I got to share Nikko's story with you guys. Thanks again for being on the show, Nikko. And thanks to everyone listening right now. I really appreciate your support on this journey. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more entrepreneurial stories and advice. I also encourage you to head over to studentbuiltstartups.com to check out the show notes. We have all the links and all the topics that we covered in there, along with timestamps for each part of the episode. And I'd love to hear some feedback. If you want to email me what your favorite episode is, you can email me at Cameron@studentbuiltstartups.com. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next episode.